Okay, we've all been there. You're driving, minding your own business, and then a little light pops up on the dashboard. You know that sinking feeling, right? That moment of automotive dread. But what if we could turn that confusion into clarity? Well, today we're going to do just that.
You're just cruising along, everything feels totally fine, and then bam, there it is, the check engine light. It's so vague, it's a little worrying, and honestly, it can mean anything from you didn't tighten your gas cap to something much, much more serious. It's a mystery we all have to face at some point.
But today, we're not just going to stare at the light and worry. Nope, we're going to solve a very specific case. We're cracking the code on a particular diagnostic trouble code that pops up for a lot of Honda owners, P1361. We're going to turn this cryptic number into a clear, straightforward action plan.
So first things first, what in the world is code P1361? To really get what's going on, we have to understand the language the car is speaking, and it all boils down to a supercritical timing signal that, keeps your engine running in perfect harmony.
When you plug in a scanner and see P1361, here's what it's telling you. The brain of your car, that's the powertrain control module, or PCM, has noticed a spotty, on-again, off-again signal coming from a really important part called the top dead center sensor.
And what is this top dead center, or TDC sensor? Well, think of it as the eyes and ears for your engine's computer. Its whole job is to constantly report the exact position of the pistons as they're flying up and down inside the engine. This information is absolutely crucial for engine timing.
This analogy here is just perfect. If your engine is an orchestra, the TDC sensor is the conductor, making sure every single part moves in perfect rhythm. Now, if that conductor suddenly misses a beat, that's our intermittent interruption, the whole symphony just falls apart. Your car might stall, it could run really rough, or maybe it won't even start at all.
Now that word intermittent is key here. The signal isn't totally gone, it's just cutting in and out. And that makes diagnosing this thing feel a bit like a detective story. So let's line up our potential suspects and figure out which one is messing with our engine's conductor.
This chart gives us a fantastic overview of our investigation. When you boil it down, there are really three main culprits we need to look at. A problem with the wiring, an issue with the sensor itself, or, in some pretty rare cases, a failure of the car's main computer. So let's tackle these one by one.
All right, let's start with suspect number 1. And this is a big one, because it is, by far, the most common reason you'll see a P1361 code. A lot of the time, the problem isn't some expensive, complex component, but the simple wires that connect everything together. Yeah, if you see this code, your first and best bet is to look for a circuit malfunction. I mean, think about it. The engine bay is a rough neighborhood. You've got constant vibrations, crazy heat cycles, moisture, and over time, all of that really takes a toll on the wiring and plastic connectors.
And circuit malfunction can mean a few different things. An open circuit, that's basically like a cut in the wire. A short is when a wire touches something it shouldn't, like the metal frame of the car. And of course, you can have physical damage, like frayed wires or just plain old corrosion, building up inside the connectors, blocking the signal.
So what do? The key is to follow a logical process. Seriously, start with your eyes. Just look along the wiring harness for anything that seems out of place. Pull apart the connectors. Do you see any of that green, crusty buildup? If it all looks okay visually, then you can grab a multimeter to test for those invisible breaks or shorts. Okay, but let's say you've done all that. You've checked every single inch of the wiring. You cleaned the connectors, you tested everything, and it all seems perfect. So what's next? Where does our investigation go from here?
Well, that brings us to our second suspect. If the communication line, the wiring, is clear, then maybe the problem is with the actual component at the end of that line, the physical TDC sensor assembly itself.
See, the TDC sensor isn't just one single piece. It's an assembly that includes the sensor pickup and another part called a pulse rotor. If either of these physical parts gets damaged or just fails internally, it simply won't be able to generate that clean, consistent signal the engine's computer is looking for.
So why would it fail? Well, as you can see, there are two main reasons. The most common is just good old-fashioned wear and tear. I mean, after thousands of hours and millions of engine revolutions, parts can just wear out. It happens. It's less common, but you could also have a manufacturing defect, where the part was just a little off from the very beginning.
Now, unlike a tricky wiring problem where you have to hunt down a tiny break, the solution here is pretty direct.
If you confirm the sensor assembly is faulty, you just replace it. It can be a more involved repair, for sure, but it will definitively fix the signal and should get rid of that code for good.
Okay, so let's recap. You've ruled out the wiring, which was our most likely suspect, and now you've also ruled out the sensor itself, our second suspect. We're now left with only one possibility, and it's the least common, but also the most serious of the three.
And that brings us to our final suspect, the command center for the entire vehicle, the Powertrain Control Module, or PCM. This is the very last stop on our diagnostic journey, and for a very, very good reason.
It is rare, but it does happen. The computer itself can fail. In this situation, the sensor could be sending a perfect signal through perfect wires, but the PCM, the brain, is just unable to process that information correctly. And because it's confused, it throws up that P1361 code.
This quote really puts it into perspective. A PCM failure isn't just a bad sensor. It's a problem with the brain of the car. And that's exactly why it's considered a more serious issue and why it's the absolute last thing you check. You want to be 100% sure you've ruled out all the simpler, more common stuff first.
So after investigating all of our suspects, what's the final verdict? We've untangled the whole mystery of the P1361 code, and now we can put everything we've learned together into one clear, final diagnostic checklist.
And this, right here, is the most important takeaway from this whole thing. The order you do things in is everything. Always start with the most likely and easiest thing to check, the wiring. If that's all good, then move on to the sensor itself. Only after you have definitively ruled out both the circuit and the sensor should you even start to think that the problem might be the PCM. Following this logical flow will save you a ton of time, money, and a whole lot of headaches.
So the next time that light comes on, maybe don't just see it as a problem. See it as a puzzle. It's a message your car is trying to send you, and by understanding codes like P1361, you're not just fixing a car, you're becoming a more empowered, more knowledgeable owner. And that's a really powerful thing. Thanks for tuning in.